Birdman. What appears to be booster rockets from a space shuttle shoots through the sky. Everything from here until the final scene is designed to look like one continuous shot. Interior, St. James Theatre. Regan Thompson, Michael Keaton, is sitting cross-legged floating a few feet about the ground in his dressing room. The voice of Birdman, seemingly coming from a Birdman movie poster, taunts him. The voice tells him he's a has-been and should never have quit making Birdman movies. He hates it in this small, dirty dressing room that smells like balls. Regan is a washed-up actor trying his hand at live theater after walking away from a superhero franchise playing Birdman. Regan gets a video call from his assistant daughter Sam, Emma Stone. She's at a flower shop, and they don't have the kind of flowers her dad wants. He just wants the kind that smells good. He hates roses. Over the paw, Regan is called to stage for rehearsal. On his way to the stage, Regan's manager, best friend and play producer Jake, Zach Galifianakis, voices concern about Regan starring in, writing and directing a play based on Raymond Carter's What We Talk About When We Talk About Love. Apparently, one of the actors, Ralph, Jeremy Shamos, isn't very good. Regan goes to the stage, where the other actors are already waiting in a kitchen scene. There are Leslie, Naomi Watts, Ralph, and Laura, Andrea Riseborough. During the scene, Regan looks up to the lighting grid, and then one of the lights falls right on Ralph's head, knocking him out of consciousness and the play. They need to find a replacement. Leslie suggests famous theater actor Mike Edward Norton, who she shares a vagina with. Regan goes back to his dressing room and Jake tells him to prepare for an afternoon of interviews. The interviewers are more interested in gossip and Regan's lapsed career than they are in talking about the play. Later that night, Regan goes back to the stage to meet with Mike. Mike is a very intense method actor. He breaks down each line of dialogue with Regan and agrees to do the play. Sam takes Regan to costuming. There he strips naked in front of her. Leslie comes in, doesn't realize Sam is behind a rack of clothes and tells Mike to put on clothes because he shouldn't be naked in front of Regan's drug addict degenerate loser daughter. Sam reveals herself and leaves. Leslie is embarrassed and yells at Mike. Laura tells Regan that they're pregnant and he fakes, poorly, being happy. She catches it and leaves in a huff. Jake tells Regan that Mike is way over their budget, but Regan says he'll pay for him himself. Jake is also helping the production avoid a lawsuit from Ralph by threatening to tell the press about odd porn Ralph is into. The play starts its preview performances. Mike decides to drink real gin on stage. The stage manager tells Regan just as he's about to enter, so he ends up casually switching the real gin with prop gin. During Regan's monologue, Mike realizes his gin was swapped out and he breaks the scene in front of the packed house to yell at Regan for not committing to the performance and the characters. Regan calls for the curtain to drop and he and Mike get into an argument. Regan tells Mike that his heart went into this production and he doesn't need him fucking it up. Mike tells Regan that he's just a movie star and has no right to be on Broadway in the first place. Regan tells Jake that he wants Mike fired, but Jake points out that since Mike was brought on, pre-sale tickets have gone through the roof. Mike can't leave. Regan's ex-wife Sylvia, Amy Ryan, was in the audience. She goes to Regan's dressing room to see how he's doing. He tells her that he refinanced their Malibu home to help pay for the play. She's upset because that was supposed to be Sam's home one day. Regan tells Mike he wants to talk to him outside. Regan tells Mike that he has a lot riding on this play and he feels that Mike resents him because he's popular. Mike tells him that popularity is the slutty little cousin of prestige. They go to a nearby bar and Regan tells Mike that the reason this play is so important to him is because when he was much younger he did a play and afterwards Raymond Carter sent him a complimentary note on a napkin. Mike points out that it's on a bar napkin and he was drunk at the time. It doesn't mean anything. He also tells him that previews are a chance to get to know the work and the only show that matters is opening night and the only opinion that matters is at the end of the bar. It's theater critic Tabitha, Lindsay Duncan. Her review will make or break a play. On Broadway, no one cares about a washed-up movie star like Regan Thompson. On cue, a family asks Mike if he'll take their picture with Regan because they're huge fans. On his way out Mike stops to taunt Tabitha. She asks if he's worried she'll give him a bad review. He says he knows she will as soon as he gives her a bad performance. Mike also tells Tabitha that he feels that Regan is legit. During the second play preview things go better than they get to the finale, where Regan's character catches Mike's character in a hotel bed with Leslie's character. Unfortunately, as they're about to do the scene Mike tells Leslie that he's erect and tells her they should have sex for real on stage in front of everyone. He starts to try to have sex with her as the scene begins. Riggins' character bursts on stage and points a gun at them. Mike jumps out of bed and reveals to everyone a massive erection. Riggin continues with the scene and delivers his final monologue as the audience laughs at Mike's penis. He tells them that he realizes he's nothing now, and then he shoots himself in the head. Everyone cheers and the play is finished. Everyone bows and it's a success. Leslie is upset. Riggin goes to her dressing room and tells her that she's brave and wonderful. Laura is there and afterwards tells Leslie that she's hurt, that in all the time she's been with Riggin, he's never said anything nearly that nice to her. Laura and Leslie end up kissing. Riggin is still angry at Mike. Mike tells Riggin to get a better gun because the prop gun has a red tip and he doesn't find it realistic enough to intimidate him. Mike goes to the roof to smoke and runs into Sam. They play Truth or Dare. She comes onto him, but he reveals that getting the erection on stage was the first erection he's had in a long time. He doesn't think he could perform, even if he wanted to. She asks what he would like to do to her if he could. He says he'd like to pop out her eyes and see the city through her young naive eyes. She gets mad and leaves. The next day the newspaper runs a piece about the play. There's a front-page interview with Mike where he takes ownership of the story about Raymond Carter seeing him perform and sending back the note. There's a tiny blurb deeper in the paper mentioning Riggin. Riggin trashes his hotel room and the Birdman poster using mental telepathy. Riggin is pissed and goes to Mike's dressing room where he finds Mike tanning. He drags Mike into a cafeteria area and they fight. They do the play. Riggin sees Mike and Sam canoodling. He decides to go outside for a cigarette before he has to do his final scene. Unfortunately he locks himself out of the theater and his bathroom gets stuck in the door. So he has to walk around to the front through all the people on Broadway, dressed only in his underwear. He re-enters the theater and takes the stage from the back of the house and walks through the audience in his underwear pointing his finger like a gun. A crew member hands him a prop gun and they finish the scene. After the show, Riggin goes to the bar again and runs into Tabitha. He takes a drink over to her and starts to tell her the story of the Raymond Carter napkin. She says she doesn't care. She's going to bury his play tomorrow because she has no respect for movie stars who want to pretend to be real actors. He tells her he is an actor and she corrects him by telling him that he's just a celebrity. Riggin gets drunk and passes out on the street. The next morning he wakes up and starts walking down the street with conviction. The voice of Birdman has now taken form as the Birdman character walking with Riggin. It tells him that he doesn't need this play. He should go back to Hollywood and make another Birdman movie. Everyone would love it and he'd make a fortune. Riggin imagined the city street turning into a scene of a big blockbuster action movie with explosions and giant robots. He goes back to reality and goes up to the roof of a building. A man comes out and asks him to come away from the ledge. Riggin does. The man asks if he's okay. Riggin says he is, and then he turns, runs and jumps off the building. He flies through the city like a superhero and goes back to the St. James Theatre and goes inside. Outside now there's a cab and the driver is mad that Riggin didn't pay him. Riggin runs into Sam, tells her she's doing a great job, and asks her how life is treating her. They have a heart-to-heart talk. She puts dashes on toilet paper and explains that they taught her that in rehab. Each dash represents 1,000 years. One sheet is the span that humans have been on Earth. The rest of the roll represents how long the planet existed. It puts it all in perspective. He tells her that this play is his chance to finally do something that's important. She tells him that he doesn't understand. This isn't important. He's not important. None of this is important. They're a dash on a sheet of toilet paper. Laura tells Riggin that he doesn't have to worry because she's not really pregnant. Sam and Mike end up having sex in the rafters above the stage. It's opening night of the play. Riggin's dressing room is full of flowers. None of them are the kind he likes. Sylvia goes backstage and they have a heart-to-heart talk. She wishes him luck. Riggin reveals to her that on the night she caught him cheating on her, he went out to the ocean to try to drown himself but kept getting zapped by jellyfish, so he dragged himself back to the shore. She remembers that and said that at the time he told her he got sunburned. He says he has to do this play tonight because it's a chance for him to finally do something right. After she leaves, Riggin pulls a real gun out and goes to the stage. He delivers his big monologue about how he realizes he's nothing, and then he shoots himself in the head for real. The audience is in shock and then everyone, except Tabitha, gives it a standing ovation. The rockets fly through the air again. Jellyfish lay on a beach. Now we're in Riggin's hospital room. Jake tells Riggin that the play was a success and he's opened a new era of theater called ultra-realism. It's suspected that Riggin didn't know the gun was real, and one of the reviews reads unexpected virtue of ignorance. Riggin's face is bandages and covers the same area that the Birdman mask covered. Sam brings him the flowers he likes. Apparently he somehow only managed to shoot his nose. She leaves to get a vase. He goes into the bathroom and takes off his bandage and looks at himself in the mirror. He goes back into his room and sees birds flying out the window. He opens it up and stands on the ledge. Sam returns. Riggin is gone. Sam looks out the open window to the ground, but he's not there. She looks up into the sky and smiles.